I spoke too soon. I did think of a couple other things we want to look at with array lists that are just kind of useful little methods that the array lists give us. And one of those methods is to see whether something is contained in the array. So after we've built this little array, I can go through and then say if the bands, if it's not the case, so if not, bands.contains the Beatles. So if the Beatles is not somewhere in the list, then we can system.out.println. You're crazy. You are crazy. Okay, well, it's not going to print it because the Beatles are in the list. But if I go in and remove, instead of removing element 2, if I remove element 0 at that point, which would be the Beatles, then it'll print out you're crazy because this returned as true. It was not the case that Beatles was found in the... It was the case that the Beatles were not found in the list. And so the contains is really useful to go in and check and see if a certain element exists in the list. The other thing we can do is find the index of. We could get even, so I'll go back to removing number 3 or whatever it was. And then instead of doing this contains, I can say if the index of, so that's another method we have. This method, we pass it a search term. So I'll say the Beatles. If the Beatles, I guess I need to add that to the which array we're looking at. So the bands, if bands dot index of the Beatles, so it's going to give us the index of it, and if that's not equal to 0, then I could say system.out.println. You're crazy. So if it's not in the first spot of the list, then I could say you're crazy, right? And in this case, we moved Justin Bieber into first place, and so it's going to print you're crazy because it's not there. Now, if I go back in and take Justin Bieber out, which a lot of us would like to do, kidding, joke, then it doesn't print that out anymore because the Beatles are in that first location. So index of is a pretty sweet little method because it allows us to go into an array list and find out where that index of or index is. We also have a last index of, which will go find the last place that a particular search term exists in an array. And so those are some of the other useful things that we can do in an array to be able to find information inside that array. Now you may notice that I'm in a better mood, and that's because I went out to the vending machine to see what they had, and there was not really anything good, but they did have a cheese Danish. I ate that. It was tasty. It hit the spot, so now I'm in a much better mood, and I appreciate your patience. I think that's it for, I mean, there are other methods. There's an isEmpty method if the list doesn't have any elements. So if we want to check to see if there's anything there, we can say bands.isEmpty. If it's empty, it'll return a true, and we can do a check to make sure that we have something in our array before we start trying to get elements out of it, for example. But that's the basic concept of array lists. They're very useful, especially, like I said, when we're using dynamic data, stuff that's going to be coming in and out. We're going to add to the list and that. So now I think we're done with array lists. Spencer, out.